So today I'll be talking about approvals, and really it's kind of a intermediate session. So hopefully I don't bore you guys, but I'll go through a couple of demos as well. So it'll be a good interactive session. So okay, so this is kind of the agenda, and you can look through here. Really, just some of the things that we'll talk about. Okay, so I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Lokesh Patel. I've been in the Dynamics and Power Automate space for about 6 years. Um, like many of you, I've had a long winding path. It's like you want to study something at first, and then you're like, well, I kind of don't want to do that. So I went to NC State. I studied engineering, civil engineering, and then I worked for a land development company in public transportation for about 8 years. Then I went to do something totally new and went to business school and focused on international business. And then I went to work at PwC, helping people with a lot of capital project and infrastructure. So after a couple of years, I said, kind of don't like doing this so much. Like some of it, but not too much. So I went to Enstoa, and at Enstoa, our CEO was like, we want to implement Dynamics and Power Platform for internal use. So I was like, all right, you know what, I'll try that out. And then, that was the time I was like, well, I think I've just become an accidental admin. So over the next few years, I got up to speed, and sometimes, going really slowly, a lot of frustration, but I learned Dynamics and Power Platform. So our company currently uses customer engagement, and I also serve as the co-leader for the Atlanta Dynamics user group. So here are my contact details. So if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me or email me. Right. So let's talk about approvals now. All right. Just as a refresher, we're going to talk about Microsoft approvals. So it's a way to streamline requests and processes. You can send a request to anyone in your organization, and it lets you quickly create a request with pretty important information, whether it's in Microsoft, like SharePoint or Power Automate steps or Dynamics, or through any other kind of connectors that we have. Great. So where can you find them? Right. So there's two main places. I just recently learned they kind of nixed one of the places in the Maker portal. So I think they're maybe as part of the new Teams integration. I don't know. But really two places. The first one is Teams. I found this to be the quickest and most convenient. You can pin the approvals tab on the left side, so you can get an overview of all your approvals that you send out and receive. And you're also able to quickly create requests here as well. They also connect with chats and channels, so you can send approvals through that venue as well. And you can send adaptive cards, which are kind of like custom cards or custom approvals to within Teams as well. All right, the second is your email. You might have gotten an approval request already. Depending on if the requester chooses to notify you, you might receive an email. You're able to action these right in the email, and you can use your phone as well. So it's a nice feature. And also, kind of like adaptive cards, you can customize this message. So it looks like it's called an actionable message, so you can change up the look and information that's displayed. All right, so let's start an approval real quick. I'm gonna come out of here, and I'm just gonna go to Teams and create one real quick. So really just coming in here, I'm gonna create a new approval. Notice I'm in the approvals tab. You can use the new view if you like, or there's not too much difference between here and just you can create a template, and maybe that's something that you create as an admin that people can use for different sources. So, all right, let's see what we can get through. All right. Okay, and then I'm gonna send it to a user account or a service account that we have. Right. So pretty simple stuff here. And once that's created, you'll see this is the person I sent it to. So this is where I logged in. You should have it here shortly. It might take a little bit. Let's see. All right. And let me see. There we go. So it's right here. Pretty much. You'll get a little notification over here that you can add your comments, etc., or you can reassign if the sender allows reassignment. So I'm just going to click no here. So pretty basic stuff here. So now let's kind of go through what's going on under the table, right? So in Dataverse, these are Dataverse tables. So thanks to Thomas Posicek, he created this diagram, and so this was really helpful when I was trying to learn this. So basically, there's 5 tables. There are additional tables, but we'll focus on these 5. And in the middle, you'll see the approvals table. That's the table that that's the like glue that holds all of them together, and it stores basic approval information like title, the requester, and then just, some details of the approval. The flow approval table on the top left, it stores information on the approval about like creation, item like who created it, when it was created, and this interesting thing called flow notification URI. And that's really important when you create an approval within a flow. So that flow is really checking a place to say, they're waiting for a response to happen. So they're checking that place to say, okay, has the response been submitted or not? And so that's really important for that. All right, so the approval request, the bottom left, it holds information on the requesters. So like if you're creating one approval that has 5 approvers, then it'll create 5 records, 1 for each approver. Interesting enough, there's the approval response table as well on the bottom right. So if you have 1 approval with 5 approvers, it actually doesn't create the record in the response table until the approver actually responds. So initially it creates 0, and then as the approvers respond, it'll create those additional records. So, and then the last table on the top right is the user table, and this just is the users available. All right. So let's take a look at a couple things. So try and catch. This is something that I really like. Let's say you create a bunch of flows and your company is sending out lots of things, kind of going back and forth, and then you come back, sometime and you find just all these flows that are just failed. What happened and why? Why weren't you aware? It's really interesting. And we don't have rollback like the data accelerators. So when things are done, it's kind of out there and you're like, all right, now I got to go into a mission to find what's happened. So, really what I try to do is create something called a try catch. Let me see if I can pull that up. Um, and it's very basic where you have some kind of items that are being done in the flow, and then really you have like error handling. And what that is it looks at the information that's been done, and if it fails or is being canceled or skipped, then it'll combine all those error codes, let's say, and create a table and send you an email. So I'm not going to go through it that much, but like that's something that I really like, and I put this into every single flow that I create. So, all right. So let's continue on. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about AI. So everyone knows what AI is, right? So approval interception. Right. So why must we intercept an approval request? As an admin, you may run into instances where you need to adjust the approval in the backend. So we'll talk about 3 instances here. You may have to cancel an approval, reassign it, or complete the request on behalf of the user. So when you create an approval request in Power Automate, you can disable the ability for a user to cancel or reassign the request. So typically that's done. That could be a business requirement or reduce unwanted actions. So it's something that the admin or the business requirement would choose to do. So other cases would be if a user has gone on vacation. We don't want an approval hanging around and being delayed by someone on vacation. So we're going to have to reassign it, but no one knows where it's gone, etc. I've seen cases where an individual sent a draft approval, and there's like, well, I gotta kind of take it back, or someone leaves the company, things like that. So and sometimes you have child flows that you want them to complete quicker. So all right, so let's see how these kind of come together. So let's dive into the cancel part. So, this is our trustee table. That's kind of our Bible for this. Let's take a look at that, like evolution at these tables. So when you create an approval, initially it'll create one approval, right? And then or one record in the flow in the approval table. It'll create 1 or 2 in the flow approval table, and that depends on where it's created. And then it'll create 1 approval request if we're sending it to 1 person, right? But in the approval response, it won't do it until they respond, right? So then what happens after you cancel it? Well, it's kind of the same. We don't create a record in the approval response table. What we do is just cancel the approval part. So let's see how this works out in this demo real quick. All right, so I'm going to create, let's see. I'm going to create this approval. Make sure let's create one here. And I'm just going to send a real quick one. All right, so hopefully this is enough space for everyone to look at. So this on the top left is the approval table. This is the flow approval table on the top right. this on the bottom left is a request table, and then this is a response table. All right, so I'm gonna refresh all these, and let's see what happens. Okay, so I just created that that approval, so it's fast and furious, and you can see it was actually created by Microsoft Flow, but the owner is me. So I really created the approval, but I am assigned as the owner. And then you can kind of see some other information here. You can see there's no result right now. So same thing here. You'll see this number, which is the approval ID, and you can kind of see it right here, approval ID. This is the same one here, and so it creates it over here. And again, I'm the owner, and here's that Yuri over here. All right, now let's go to the approval. This is the request table. So here we go here. Here's that same ID. And then we'll go over to the right and we'll see some other information. You'll see that it was created, and the owner of this record is actually Power Automate Agent, which is the person I sent it to. That's interesting. And then over here, obviously, there's not going to be any kind of information here since they haven't actioned yet. So let's talk about how to cancel something in the background. Right. So we're going to cancel something. Let me show you how to set this up. So really simple. So we get an input of the GUID, which is really going to be the approval ID. Okay. And then we're just going to update that approvals table based on the ID, and we're just going to do a couple of things. One, we have to put the approval stage key as complete. Right now, you'll see that it is basic, so it hasn't been completed yet. And then just fill out some information like the stage and the reason we cancel, or some reason. Some of these you can put in whatever you like. I just put in a timestamp as well on the completed on, just to give it a little bit more accurate information. And in the result, you can type in, like canceled or some kind of reason, canceled by the CEO or whatever it is, and then you have to make it inactive. So we're gonna test this out real quick. Maybe. Okay, I guess I'll run it. I'm just gonna put that GUID in here, and we'll run it, and let's see what happens. So this one should go pretty quick. Now let's go back over here. As you can see, this result is there's nothing in here. So I'm just gonna refresh this. You should see that the same one is kind of over here. Here, and you can see that the result is canceled now, and it is inactive. It's the status. I should put it in here. And it is inactive now. Great, and nothing changed on any of these tables because there's no information that needed to change. All right, so let's continue. All right, what if we wanted to reassign, right? Kind of similar, right? Like let's take a look at our table or our Bible again and see. Okay, so initially, let's say we sent one approval, and in the flow approval table, it'll create one or two depending on how it's created, and then it'll create one record in the approval request, and again 0 in the response. So right before we assign it, right? Nothing happens. We haven't done anything. We haven't made any changes, right? But then right after, what we have to do is create a change in the existing record for the approval request, and then create another one for the person that we want to assign it to. Right, so let's take a look and see how this one works. Go back over here, and I am going to, let's see, I'll just create another approval. And I'll send it to, should I send it to someone that's not in here? Okay, so let's refresh all our tables again. Right, so we should see the SQL here. And if you come over here, same thing, you know, kind of saw all that. I'm gonna copy this because I need that. That one was active. And the RESME. So now, same thing over here. We created individual, and we can see that it is sent to this D365 test individual. Well, I want to send it to somebody else. I want to send it to Power Automate agent. So now I'm gonna come over here. I can reassign a flow. And let's see how this one works. This one's a little bit more complicated than that one-step process on the other one. So in this one, we actually have to get the information of the user that we would like to assign it to in Dataverse. So while we can search it up, or if you know the GUID for the individual, then great, but normally we don't. So what I did here was get the information for the individual we want to assign it to. Then we have to get the actual approval record that we want to do something with. Right? And then here we go into the approval request table. So let me pull up this, where we got the approval. Now we're looking to see, give me all of the information that's in the approval request table related to that approval that we wanted, right? And then for each one, I need to say, hey, we need to cancel that person's, I guess, security for this approval. They can no longer approve this request. Then we have to create a new approval record in that request table. And then we can say, hey, we need to mark the existing one that was there inactive. So let me go over here, and we can kind of talk about that in this way too, right? So what we did was we looked through the approval. We said, okay, give me that approval. Give me all the approval requests related to that approval. So we got one right now. And we said, okay, well, I don't want the person that's been assigned to that to do anything. So I'm going to cancel that one. I'm going to create a new one in the same table for the new individual. And then I'm going to make the original one inactive so they can't do anything. So let me come over here. And I'm going to make Power Automate agent. So this is that new approval. So remember, we only have one here for that one. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to run this flow. Right, that looks like it ran pretty quick. So now I'm gonna refresh this one. And what we should see here are two items for that same approval. And let's go and see. It was Dynamics 365 test, and now it's Power Automate agent. And this one is inactive, and this one is active. Now, this is what happens when you come over here and you can click the reassign. I guess I don't know how many that are here, but you can click the reassign. So this is exactly what happens when you reassign. It's just you have more control over it. Or if there's additional processes that you need to do, then that's kind of how that works. So, all right. So let's continue now. So what happens when you want to complete the request? Say like you have a complex child flow, or you have a flow that is running, but then you're waiting on the approval for that in that flow. You just don't want to click the approve button and then or the approve. You don't want to approve it in this flow and then the original flow not do anything. So let's take a look at the information again. So let's say I have one approval and then I send it to two individuals. And then what I'm going to do is before they complete it, someone approves. So one out of the two approve, and then someone comes to me, hey, this person's on vacation, but we want to go ahead and send it through. So what we do is we add an artificial record to the response table to make it seem like they approved. So let's go through that and see how that one would work. And along with this one, I'm going to create it in a flow, so you'll be able to see what's going on here. So this is basically I'm just creating an approval and waiting for it. So let's see. I'm going to create it. I'm going to send it to dynamic test, which is that D365 test, and that Power Automate agent, and very basic. So let me test it. So that created the approval, and I'm going to get the approval ID over here, so I can play around with it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep this on the side over here. Let's see if I have a window I can steal real quick. Okay, so now let's go over and say, all right, we have to complete that flow. So now let's take a look and see what we do in this one. So this is quite a bit longer, and let me explain all these and what happens through these. So I initialize a couple of variables. So this is going to help out with when we send information across to different things. So this one, the response list. This one's the summary, the response summary. This one's the flow URI that I have to send back so that this will continue going. All right, so first thing, we get that approval record. Similar, we get all the requests under that record. And then we say, okay, well, now we got to get the response. Who has responded already? And so that reminds me, actually, I'm going to have Power Automate respond to this. So then that way we can see what's going on. So we can see that this one is the one that we just sent to Power Automate Agent and D365 test. So I'm gonna approve this one. but D365 test is out of the country or something like that, right? So again, what we'll see here, let's refresh all these tables. Is that this sample one, this one was created, this one, there's no result, etc. And we have this one over here, which now it should have 2 lines, right? So this one, there's 2 lines in here. And one is to D365 test, and one is to Power Automate agent. In this approval response table, what we'll see now is that there's 1 line so far for this one, and that's from Power Automate agent, and they approved. Because we didn't get the one from D365 because they're out of country. All right, so back to our flow now. So now we'll get the responses from them, and then for each item in the request, so for each person we requested, we're going to go through that and check it out and see what's going on. So the first thing is we got to go get the owner of that, and then we're going to create this this text, this JSON that will send back to say, hey, this is the information that we'd like to put into the approval. So then now we say, okay, then we're going to append it to this response list, and then we're going to append it to this response summary. And we do that for each individual that we have gotten the response from, right? Otherwise, it would just show up as blank. So now what we do is we get the flow approval record. And now remember, I guess I can show you this, where this is the table that's over here, the flow approval record. That holds some information, including the URI. So we'll go through this and then we'll see, okay, well, is the URI empty? And for this particular flow, and then we'll say, okay, if it is, then go through this. If it's not, then keep going. So now what we have to do is go find that record and complete it. So we'll go through there, we add the information here, and then what we do here is we update the approval table to say, okay, this is complete now, and similar to what we did before. And then what we're going to do is send back the information to this other flow that's running here. Right, so that's what we want to do. Right, and then we just terminate it. So let's start doing that. Okay. So remember, this is going to need that flow, the approval, and we're going to say this one's going to be, we'll say approved. Oops. All right. Okay. So now we're going to run this, and it'll run through all this, and you'll see over here that once it hits, it's going to start again. Once it hits that, it'll start continuing on with this. So if you have some complex flow that's waiting on a response, you don't have to go to it manually. You just have to send it this information and it'll complete it. Great. All right. So we kind of went through there. And now I guess we can kind of come over here and see that in this one, there are 2. And that on the behalf of this, we approved. Oh, sorry, not this one. On the other one, that it's approved. And it's done. So we'll finish this one. And we'll see that it is approved over here. Here. Right. Okay. So start and wait for approval. That's why I typically use start and wait instead of, well, sorry, I use start as a step and wait as a step, not the combined one, start and wait for an approval, because it's useful to get that approval ID out and kind of store it somewhere, whether that's in a SharePoint site or in SQL or something like that that's associated with what you're trying to do. Because one of the biggest challenges is that the flow time's out in 30 days. So I know a lot of times managers and executives, they have a lot on their plate and they don't really get to everything within the 30 days. So it's really easy to have these flows fail if you just let them go on and not really do anything. So really how I solve this issue is we break it. Well, we break it before it actually breaks itself. So I typically use 29 days. And then really we just kind of break it before that and rerun the flow. So yeah, that's kind of my presentation here on approvals. Anyone have questions regarding this?